What is the upskis, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the GXHockeyCast. We are on episode 68, Yarmir Yager, baby, of my little hockey show, where once a week I go through all of the major news in the NHL, mostly focusing in on the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Calgary Flames, because that's my favorite teams, but I can talk about any of the 32 teams in the NHL. So, what is on tap for this week? Well, preseason is underway. The NHL regular season is right around the corner, so we'll talk about a couple things that have been circulating around with the preseason. We got some pissed off captains in this league. We have no captains in this league and some new captains, so we got a lot of captain talk to go on. The Ducks still haven't signed two of their major pieces for this season, so what the heck is going on over there? And there's a trade, and that's about it. So for a change, let's start with some Leaf talk, because there's been some stuff coming out of the Leaf camp that is a little bit eyebrow-raising. First off, we got William Nylander has been playing center at camp and in that preseason game the other day. I watched a little bit of that preseason game against Ottawa. As I'm recording this, there's a second game going on between Toronto and Ottawa right now. So yeah, shit is crazy. So how do we feel about William Nylander at center this season, possibly? Well, I'm more comfortable with it this time around because they're not just trying it all willy-nilly out of nowhere in one of the most crucial games of the season. So at least he's starting fresh at the beginning of training camp. At least we have some time to see if this is a possibility. And honestly, I can't see really why not. I know there's the big debate about what are we doing with John Tavares? Is he going to, with Willie going to center, is he going to slide down to third line center, or are they finally going to pull the trigger and move John Tavares to the wing? Now, honestly, I think, why does it have to be so, set in stone? Why can't we have John Tavares take the face-offs when it's really crucial, because we all know that John Tavares is an elite face-off taking guy. I would imagine that he is a better face-off man than William Nylander right now, so why would it be such a big deal for the Leafs to have the line of Tavares, Willie, and blank, even though I know people don't really like the numbers when Nylander and Tavares have played together, but just theoretically, you have Tavares take the face-off, and then he just switches off and starts playing wing, and you have Nylander play center. So why is that a situation? Well, the big thing is John Tavares, he's never had great speed, and now he's getting older. It's starting to get... I personally haven't noticed it being very bad other than the playoffs last year, where he was definitely just falling behind in terms of pure speed, but he still brings a lot of great stuff to the game. So a lot of people have been debating when should we move John Tavares off center and move him over to the wing. I'm still all about John Tavares, man. I still don't get the hatred towards this guy. He took a discount at the time in free agency. He did that for us. He came in. He's been nothing but fantastic every single season he's played here, in and around point a game or more. Yeah, he shot the lights out in his first season as a Leaf, and he hasn't been able to hit those numbers in terms of goals ever since. But if you look at his track record, he's never really been a consistent 40-plus goal scorer. So anyway, I don't know what all the hatred is, but regardless, we have William Nylander playing a little bit of center, and he was technically drafted as a center, but most guys, they tend to come into the league as centers, and not every single one of them plays center full-time. So we'll see how it goes with Willie Nylander. He kind of already shows that he could be a good center. He generally can run a line sort of by himself. We'll see more so if he can do that at the center role, but the only thing that concerns me is maybe his, if you watch Willie for a while, there's those games where he looks like an unstoppable, just train off the tracks. He is gone, and he is just... wow, he is amazing. Then there's those other games where it's just not there. The effort isn't there. He doesn't look like he wants to be here. And, in terms of a person playing center, you're going to want those guys, you want them back checking. You want them to be on the forecheck and not making defensive liabilities a situation when you're a center. And I'm not saying that Willie is a defensive liability. It's just sometimes his consistency and engagement in the play from game to game, shift to shift isn't necessarily always there, especially when you compare it to John Tavares, who I don't think has ever taken a game off. The guy is awesome. Little thing king. He always does the little things, and it adds up to great plays. But we'll see where that goes. It's not set in stone. That can get changed. Willie can go to the wing, but it's definitely worth a shot to see if, with some training camp behind him, see if there's something there. I'm for it. I wouldn't even be against them trying out Marner on center and see if that's something, because he's such a good passer, right? And maybe he could be unreal at the center. He's already shown the ability to be a pretty solid two-way forward. He was nominated for the Selke last season, so, he's shown the ability to be able to back check and be responsible defensively, so I wouldn't hate that. I didn't even hate the idea of them teasing maybe Marner on the blue line a little bit, and just, that wouldn't be horrible, especially on the power play. But, hey, things can change, and especially with the Leafs, they have a lot of guys that share center roles. It's kind of been a thing with the Leafs for a while now, where there could be multiple or even three guys that can potentially take faceoffs on one line. So it's not really something I'm overly concerned about, but we'll see where it goes. I'm mostly just curious to see what they want to do with John Tavares this year, because it's not too often that his foot speed is getting exposed. Now, that is something that would be more so a problem in the playoffs, depending on who they're playing. If they're playing a really fast team, maybe like Edmonton or something, I know that would have to take place in the finals, but theoretically, they're playing a really fast team, then if they could prove and show that Willie is good and responsible to play center, then they can move that and they can change it up. It's never a bad thing to have options. So we're playing with the William Nylander thing at center. I don't know if it's going to stick, and it's hard to really get a great gauge on how effective he is in the preseason, because in the game the other day, Ottawa, yes, they did throw out their first line, which was very good the other day. They were scoring lots of points, but other than that, the rest of the team was not necessarily what the Ottawa Senators are going to look like in the regular season. So curious to see what everybody is thinking about William Nylander at center. You like it? You think it's going to stick, or should people just lay the fuck off of John Tavares for a second? So that's not all that's come out of Leaf camp. We have sad news, but also kind of known news that, what's his first name? Jake Muzzin. There you go. Almost said Matt Muzzin, but that's not right. Jake Muzzin will not be playing this season for the Toronto Maple Leafs. He didn't play last year, and yeah, it's a really sad and shitty way for someone's career to go down. He did win a Stanley Cup. Admit, I fucking love Jake Muzzin. He's been one of my favorite Leafs ever since he showed up. He's just struggled so hard to stay healthy, and when they re-signed Muzzin, that was something I didn't necessarily want them to do. He was already pretty damaged at that point, and then giving him $4 million was definitely, even, I could say hindsight, but I said it when they signed it, I don't know about that deal. So at least they could put it on LTIR, but the Leafs are still in a little bit of a cap trouble right now. I believe they're still over, so there could be a situation where they start the season with 11 forwards and 6 defensemen. They might be down a guy, and we saw that happen a couple times with the Leafs last year, and it's definitely not a good situation to be in, so they're going to want to work that one out at some point. And Matt Murray going on what I would imagine long-term injured reserve for probably the whole season, or at least until after the trade deadline. He apparently needs major surgery. Now, does he or doesn't he is the question out there right now, because we've seen this time and time again, especially in Toronto, where, guys just kind of disappear, and, where's that guy at? He's hurt. So Matt Murray, he is an NHL athlete, a player. He's more than likely got something injured on him, but him needing major surgery, that sucks. I don't think Matt Murray is anywhere near as bad of a goaltender as some people think he is. I still think he's an NHL goaltender. Maybe not a starter anymore. Is he going to be winning Stanley Cups again? Maybe not. He's still fairly young. It's the NHL. Anything can happen, especially when it comes to goaltenders. They're just so freaking weird, right? But I hope Matt Murray can bounce back and get back into the NHL at some point. I imagine if he can sign a contract that is not super a lot of money, that would really help people maybe see Matt Murray in a better light, because yeah, he's making a lot of money right now. He's definitely overpaid, but I still think he's got some good NHL time left in him. So hopefully he can come back at some point this season. Is he going to be a Toronto Maple Leaf? We'll have to wait and see on that one. And then we got Austin Matthews. So there's an article floating around that Mr. Poppy might be seeing himself on the penalty kill a little bit more this season, or just on it in general, and that could be good or bad. So again, I don't think any of this is set in stone. Even if he is on the penalty kill, does that mean he's going to be playing penalty kill every single game? I mean, maybe not. So the debate with this would be, just look at how many minutes that Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl play over in Edmonton. It is a lot of time, way more than your average forward, but they are a little bit more talented than your average forward. So is Austin Matthews going to be the guy that would benefit from more time on specialty teams that aren't the penalty kill, or what are we thinking about that? So I think Austin Matthews is a good two-way forward. I don't know if he's quite elite yet, but I think he's really good. He's shown very good skills on the boards. He's quite good at stealing the puck away and protecting the puck on the boards. Good at coming back on the back check. I could see it being an option for the Leafs, especially he's solid at faceoffs, and I always like the idea of having a threat on the ice at all times. So if you have Austin Matthews out there killing penalties, you're definitely going to maybe think twice, making a nifty little pass near him, because if he takes that, oh boy, you're in big fucking trouble. That was the same thing that was going on with Marner last season. You know, he's on that board. He's generally the high guy up, kind of forcing the defense to make a mistake. And if Marner gets that puck, he is gone. There's not many guys that are going to be catching him. So is that a recipe for success? Are they going to score some more goals shorthandedly? You know, it definitely comes from, it's going to depend on, you know, every game's going to be different. Some games there may not be as many penalties, or in general, all around, there may be a lot more 5-on-5 times. So it's definitely going to be a game-by-game basis. But if they want to try it out, I'm all for it. I mean, I always put my best players generally on the penalty kill and power play in the video games, but, you know, that's a video game. So things are a little bit different. And I definitely don't want Matthews, Marner, Nylander, Tavares to get burnt out. I want them to, I don't want them to have like minute managing or anything, because they're young. I think Tavares even doesn't need anything like that yet, but I don't want them to get burned out by time playoff comes. We're in a position now where, you know, the regular season, I'm not going to say it's easy for them to make the playoffs, but they're generally a pretty strong team in the regular season, so the focus needs to be on playoffs. And you're going to want to keep your guys. You don't want to burn them out 60 games in, and then, you know, the last 20 they start falling off a cliff. You really want to start getting the engines warmed up for playoffs once the time gets close. So I don't want them to get burned out, but I definitely wouldn't mind seeing them try it out. I haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen the lineups for the game that's going on right now. I'm not sure if Matthews is playing in that game right at the moment, but we'll see it once the regular season starts and the lineups start to get settled in. It's still a little bit early to determine who and who isn't going to be on the lineup, but it is safe to say that Matthews is probably going to make the team, I would imagine. He's pretty good. But I am interested to hear what y'all think about Austin Matthews joining the PK. I mean, it's really not that crazy. Marner's already on it, so can you imagine a Matthews-Marner penalty killing tandem? That would be pretty ungreat to deal with, and I think it would be good to maybe refine their defensive skills just a little bit. And again, it doesn't mean that they're going to be solidified on the PK every single time, but, you know, if the time comes where it's like, all right, we're deploying Austin Matthews and Marner on the penalty kill, off they go, and it could definitely throw a wrench into some teams' plans. Speaking of screwing up some plans, let's talk about the plans of Steven Stamkos and what he thought maybe would have been done already over the summer. So I personally think people are blowing this one a little bit out of proportion, but the story is Steven Stamkos, captain of the Tampa Bay Lightning, wanted to have his contract extension done over the summer so that he wouldn't have to worry about it all season long. He's only got 1 year left, making like $8.5 million, kind of a bargain, but he's getting up there in age. He's like 34 years old now. He's won 2 cups. He's been the captain for a very long time, former first overall pick. He's played his whole entire career for the Tampa Bay Lightning, broke his leg, fucking blood clot, a whole bunch of shit. It's been a very interesting career for Steven Stamkos, and there's still no contract extension, and he has come out and said, I'm pretty damn disappointed about that. So, I mean, when a Canadian hockey player comes out and politely says on camera, I am a little bit disappointed, apparently that means all hell has broken loose in Tampa Bay. Because everyone's like, oh my God, this is egregious. Steven Stamkos doesn't have an extension. What's the big deal? I mean, yeah, he's your captain. He's won 2 Stanley Cups, but I mean, have we forgotten that hockey is a business and the Vegas Golden Knights can just ship people off to wherever the fuck, whenever the fuck, and it's not that big of a deal? And, well, I mean, it was kind of a big deal. But regardless, I think, I think the Stamkos thing is getting a little bit blown out of proportion. Just because he doesn't have a contract signed right at this moment doesn't mean that he's necessarily traded or he's gone or he wants out. All this stuff that people are speculating. I think Brisebois is he's got to be a little bit smarter at this point in his GM tenure because, I mean, he has that Tanner Jeannot trade, which was an absolute disaster. So, I would imagine there's some eyes already on him at the moment. And if he just had, let's just say he threw a contract at Stamkos, an egregious contract, like 6 years or something like that, like $8.5 million, somewhere around what he's making right now. I don't know how good that one would age. That would definitely, I would imagine, be a boat anchor contract for that team at this point. And Brisebois has come out and said he wants to be competitive still. They still believe that they're contenders. They can win another Stanley Cup, and they need to be smart with the money that they're going to have in the future. And if they're going to give a large chunk of that money to he would be 35, 36 years old at the start of that next contract. And if you're going to give him if you're going to give him a raise even, I think that's already out of the question. That should not be happening. I know that he's even put up his 2 best seasons back to back now. He's kind of aging like a fine wine, but scoring has gone up all around in the NHL. Stamkos is as healthy as he's been in a very, very long time. He's still playing on a very good line with some very, very good players. And, I mean, I'm a little bit on the side of Brisebois. You cannot, at this point, the way that the NHL is going, you cannot give Stamkos at his age that much money or that much term. Or if it's going to be, it's got to be one way or the other. They can give him some good money for a short amount of time. Or if you want to have a fucking 6 to 8 year extension, then you're not going to get paid. That's what I would be saying as a GM. And yes, he's won 2 cups for you, but I don't want to be a dick about it, but how involved was Stamkos during those cups? I mean, that first cup, they won it without him. He played 1 game and scored 1 major goal. Yes, absolute legend, but they already did it basically without him, and not to say that if they traded off Stamkos right now for picks or something, it's definitely going to make them a much worse team. They may even struggle to make playoffs if they didn't have Stamkos this season, because that's mostly because the Atlantic is so stacked at this moment, and there are teams just chomping at the bit to get into a playoff spot, and Tampa Bay could be the ones that fall out. So if that is going to be the case, we'll see how it goes with Steven Stamkos. But what side are you on right now? Are you on Team Stamkos, that this guy has won a cup for you guys? He's been here his whole entire career and gone through so much ups and downs with this team, and he's always been there. He left money on the table when he re-signed. He didn't go to Toronto. He's done a lot for this team, absolutely, but it's not like he played for free the whole entire time. He was making $8.5 million. It's not like he got paid. There's money there. I guarantee if you check Steven Stamkos' bank account, there's more in there than mine. So sometimes, I'm not going to say, if Steven Stamkos wants money, I mean, what's the problem with him leaving? Okay, yeah, your family, your whole life is in Tampa Bay, but how much longer do you have in your NHL career? If you want to just go bounce, like go to Florida if you're that worried about leaving and going so far away. Go to Florida. Just walk from Tampa and then see you later. If that's how they want to treat you, then do it back to them. I mean, it doesn't bother me all that much if a guy doesn't play his whole entire career with a team, unless it's like something like Daniel Alfredsson, where it was like, Jesus, man, why'd you really, like, you just wanted to play those few games in Detroit? What the fuck? But if Stamkos stays, he stays. If he doesn't, I mean, I really can't blame Brisebois for not wanting to give him a contract yet, because at this point, he's going to want a lot. He's got a lot of really good things that he can go back to and be like, well, I scored 100 points that season. I've been increasing my point totals over the last season, won some Stanley Cups and all that stuff. So Brisebois, I think, is playing the right hand and saying, yo, man, we'll wait. And if he falls off a cliff this season, then boom, who's the genius at that point? So, I mean, I understand Steven Stamkos' frustration. It could literally just be boiling down to a money play. This could be something that his agent told him, like, hey, they're going to stick fucking microphones in your face, say something about it, maybe we can get a contract done or squeeze something out of them, or at least turn the heat up on that conversation, which I feel like has worked in spades because people are just running with it. I don't think it's a big deal. I think it'll probably just get done, and if it doesn't, then cool, Stamkos will find somewhere else to play and make a lot of money. That's okay. So curious to think what side everyone is falling on. I'm good with Brisebois, man. I think he's doing the right thing. Don't give an old player a lot of money and a lot of term at this point of his career. So I think it'd be okay, but we'll see how it goes with them. Speaking of how it's going, how about that Calgary Flames Vancouver preseason game last night? And again, I do preface the fact that it was preseason and it wasn't Vancouver and or Calgary at their full potential, but the Flames did pummel the Canucks 10-0 the other night. And the best thing that came out of that game is Coronado with the hat trick, and oh baby, that is a good sign. I am liking the vibes around Calgary right now. Huberdeau is buzzing. He seems happy as fuck. So that's great, man. Again, it's preseason, so good for the Flames. That's great. Young player, scoring, looking really good, fitting in. I'm seeing smiles on the Flames ice, and like, oh my god, I haven't seen a smile in Calgary in about a year and a half. So that is fantastic news. Now, I don't expect the Flames to, go 82-0 and Coronado score 55 goals this season, but it's at least something. And I know I saw Sharon Govich getting on the board. Huberdeau was on the board. That's great. And it looks like there might be a little bit of a bromance brewing right here between Huberdeau and Coronado, and I'm all about it. So I'm just glad to see some pictures with some smiles and some Flames players. That is just, that is brilliant to see. So that's good for the Flames. Now the Canucks. So I don't think it's time to panic just yet. It's only a preseason game, but holy fuck, 10-0. The thing that concerns me the most would be Seelovs, their goaltender. I guess now that trade has gone down, we're not too worried about it. We'll talk about the trade in a moment with Tanner Pearson, but Seelovs was potentially in the running for the backup goaltending job for the Canucks this season. It's probably not going to happen after that game. I didn't even see that many egregious goals going in. Now, I didn't see all 10 of them, but I did see the 3 that Coronado scored. That last one was an absolute snip, top cheese, bar down cheddar. How you doing? But good lord. So not a good sign for the Canucks out of the gate, and probably not going to help with their confidence. But again, it's just preseason, so I'm not going to go too crazy about it. But definitely not a good sign for Seelovs, but I guess it's okay because they have made a trade. So let's go over and talk about this trade. Pretty minor, but I think it works out for both teams. So we got a trade between Vancouver and Montreal. Montreal acquires Tanner Pearson and his contract, plus a third-round pick from the 2025 draft. Vancouver acquires Casey DeSmith, who has been on the trade block and trade rumors ever since Montreal acquired him a month ago or whatever. Not very long ago. So this is good for Vancouver. They were looking for a backup goaltender, and Casey DeSmith looks like he is going to be that guy. You'll definitely get a chance. I would say it's pretty safe to say at this point that he should and will be the backup goaltender for them. So good move for Vancouver. Not only did they get their backup goaltender, they also helped themselves out a little bit with the salary cap situation. They're another team still not under the salary cap, and someone needed to go. Was it going to be Tyler Myers? Probably not. Still could happen. Was it going to be, oh man, what's that guy's name that I really like? Garland. He's also been in trade rumors. I like him. I think he's a good player. But it appears that it was Tanner Pearson. So it's not that the Vancouver Canucks wouldn't have liked to have him on the team this season. I think he missed the whole entirety of last year, but contract is a little bit too rich. He's still got some value that Montreal wants to see if they can get something out of this guy. Now, it seems like a decent flyer for the Montreal Canadiens. They could definitely use some forwards and some scoring help. Tanner Pearson, he's not going to be a 30, 35 goal scorer or anything, but he could be some solid middle six depth for them. And if he does happen to resurge, they could easily trade him and get some more picks. So they picked up a third round. Not bad work from both teams right here. A kind of what do you call it? Just a hockey trade, Vancouver needed something. Montreal could help them out. So yeah, not a bad deal right there. There's been some mostly minor signings right here. So we got Kalen Addison gets a contract extension. Just the 1 year, $825,000. I feel like I talked about Jujhar Khaira getting a league minimum deal with the Minnesota Wild. We'll see if he's able to crack onto their roster. It looks pretty decent. Igor Sokolov gets a 1 year deal with the Ottawa Senators, league minimum. Jan Yannick, 1 year, league min for the Arizona Coyotes. We got Toure. He signs a 3 year entry deal. Parker Bell, 3 year entry level deal. And Colby Barlow gets his 3 year entry level deal. The 18-year-old, he is at this point listed as what could potentially be the steal of the draft this last season. He already looks like a man at 18 years old. He's got a thicker beard than I do. And, so far so good with this guy. Maybe he cracks the lineup. I think that's a pretty outside chance, but I think you might see him at least in those 9 games before he gets sent down to wherever he has to go. But Colby Barlow, we could be hearing that name a lot more often sooner rather than later. So we'll see where that one goes. Vancouver with 2 entry-level deals. They signed Sawyer Minyo and Ty Young. So nice for those guys. Ty Young, a goaltender, 19 years old. And that's about all those signings that have gone on right there. So we'll swing over now and we'll talk about some captains and stuff. So we got a couple of new captains in the NHL. We'll start off with the St. Louis Blues. They named Brayden Schenn the new captain of the St. Louis Blues. And yes, absolutely yes, that would have been my guy that I would have selected from the Blues if I was choosing a captain. He's been there, I would say probably the longest. He's definitely been there for a long time. He's a good, responsible, two-way forward. He's definitely been dealing with some injury over the last couple seasons, but St. Louis is looking for a bounce back this year. I believe that they can do it. And with Brayden Schenn named the captain, that's going to be the guy they're going to get behind. I think that's a good guy to get behind. He's a good player, and I like it. So good with Brayden Schenn. Some people might think that maybe they would have pulled the trigger with one of the younger guys and Thomas or maybe even Kyrou, but I don't think it's there just yet. Kind of got a tease as to, I'm not going to say that this is the reason why, but St. Louis last year kind of looked like, they were moving on from some of their older players and going on with the new young guns, and then they didn't make the playoffs. And, not that their play was necessarily bad, but at some points throughout the season, it was definitely not good. They were having a lot of goals against when those guys were out there. They turned it on a bit, especially towards the back half of the season. They started really bringing it together and kind of saved what almost was a not very good season for Kyrou or Thomas, but we'll see where it goes. I believe Thomas is going to wear the A. I didn't see that Kyrou is going to be wearing anything, and I don't know how much. I know some guys really, hold the captaincy and the assistant captain very high, and it's so very important. I personally wouldn't put all that much stock into it. I mean, if it's really bothering a team, then yeah, sure, make it a captain, like the Calgary Flames. We'll talk about them in a moment. But before we talk about the Flames and their non-captain, let's talk about the Bruins. So, Brad Marchand, new captain of the Boston Bruins. Oh boy, that is interesting. Now, someone said that Brad Marchand was going to be the captain of the Bruins like 6 years ago. I probably would have giggled a little bit, but I don't hate it. I mean, I'm not a big fan of Brad Marchand. I respect the player. But he is a Bruin, but I have to say he has calmed down quite a lot over the last few years. Now, I'm not saying he's completely fucking clean and just rejuvenated his whole... No, he's still a fucking dickhead, but he's definitely calmed down a little bit. But we'll see how that one goes. I'm very interested to see if maybe now that he has the C, he's going to ramp it back up and become ultra mega dickhead of the NHL again. Or if now that he has the C, he's going to like really tone it back and calm down and do everything that he can to keep the Bruins in play, because it's definitely some pressure around the Bruins this season. It's their 100th season. They're coming off of the very, very disappointing playoff run that they had last year, getting taken out in the first round after having the greatest regular season of all time. So Brad Marchand really wouldn't want to be the guy to lead the Bruins into not making the playoffs. That would not be something that Brad Marchand would want on his resume, so I'm not necessarily rooting for the guy, but, you know, I would semi-feel a little bit... No, I can't say it. I wouldn't feel all that bad if he was the one that made a miss. It would kind of be kind of beautiful, honestly. But anyway, Brad Marchand, captain of the Boston Bruins. I mean... How long does Brad Marchand have left in the NHL? I mean, he is coming off a double hip surgery. He didn't really seem to miss all that much of a beat last year. Now, I didn't watch a whole lot of the Bruins, but his points still look pretty good. I thought he was going to be fucking toast, admittedly, after a double hip surgery, but there's Brad Marchand, man. So maybe we see a dip off in his production this season. Now, there's no more Bergeron. There's no Krejci this season. They're definitely going to be taking a hit. It's pretty safe to say they're not going to have as good of a year as they did last season, but it's nice to see, you know, Brad Marchand. He's going to be the last of that last big group of the 2011 team that won the Stanley Cup. There's no more Krejci, no more Bergeron, no more Chara, no more Tuukka Rask. So it's Marchand's team. I'm fine with that. I wouldn't have been shocked if they pulled the trigger and moved on to maybe Charlie McAvoy or David Pastrnak. If I was picking between the two, I'd probably side a little bit more on the Charlie McAvoy side. He just screams more of a captain to me. And Pastrnak, I don't think that kind of shit really matters to him. Would he like to be the captain? Yeah, why not? I think that would be really cool. But we'll see when Brad's time is done, who's it going to go to, Pastrnak or Charlie McAvoy, or maybe fucking Marchand just doesn't leave and he stays here until he's 48 years old and he's the captain the whole time, becomes the longest Bruins captain of all time. But we'll see about that one. That's pushing it, but congratulations to Braden Shen and Brad Marchand of becoming captains of their teams. So we'll keep with the captain talk right now. So we know that the Flames don't have a captain as of yet. A lot of word on if Backlund is or isn't going to be the captain. At this point, I really don't give a shit. If it's going to save us money and a headache and all that crap, give him the fucking captaincy and we'll be done with it. He'll retire or leave next year or two, and then we'll have another captain. I don't think it really matters. I know a lot of people put like, oh, I don't like the idea of a guy being the captain for 1 year or half a year and then they don't have a captain. I mean, Seattle recently just did it. They made Mark Giordano their inaugural captain and then they traded him not long after that. So it's not that big of a deal, honestly. I think, at least I don't think it's that big of a deal. So if they make Backlund the captain and he retires next season or he gets traded or he moves on, oh well, at least... You know, I think it's a nice kind of respecting gift to give to Backlund. He's been there for a long time, good, long-serving Flame. I imagine he's quite well liked in the locker room and with the fan base. I like him. I think he's pretty good. But if it's going to make the team a little happier, I think they can rally behind the fact of Backlund becoming the captain finally. Maybe not your typical captain. I kind of prefer these kind of captains when it's not necessarily the best player on your team, but kind of your all-around good. Like you can count on him for anything. And I feel like you can do that with a guy like Backlund. He's responsible defensively. He's a veteran in the league. His offensive production isn't incredible, but it's not bad. He's kind of like the Swiss Army knife of the team. I can see him in all situations and not feel all that bad about it. So I'm good with Backlund becoming the captain of this team. They could go with Huberdeau. He is locked in for 8 years, so that's kind of your safe pick. You know, I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon. Yeah, his first season wasn't all that great, but I think he's going to bounce back, and But I don't know. It might not be the best idea to put that on Huberdeau this season. I think he should just really double down, focus in on having that bounce back, start feeling good, get comfortable with the team, get comfortable with the city. And if you add in the captaincy, that's just going to add in a whole bunch of extra talking and interviews and hard-hitting questions that maybe he doesn't really need on his plate right now. He just needs to put up some fucking points and get the Flames back into the playoffs. So I'm good with Backlund becoming the captain of the Flames. I'm cool with that. Some people have speculated maybe Rasmus Andersson could be the captain. Hey, that'd be all right with me, too. I think he's a really good defenseman. He had a good year. One of the rare players on the team last season who I can say had a good season. So we'll see where that one goes, but the Flames aren't the only team without a captain. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other teams that do not have a captain. So we'll quickly go through them, and I'm going to rattle off who I think should be the captain of those teams if they decided to pick one. So Arizona, this one's really easy for me. It's got to be Clayton Keller. Probably the best player that they've ever had. The dude is an absolute stud, and he continues to be really good. Really good draft pick for them. He's come into his own. He's signed fairly long term. He's been there for a good amount of time. You know, he's a real trooper, and I would love to see him become the captain and bring Arizona back to the playoffs for the first time in a while. Seattle's interesting. There's a lot of really good players. I mean, Jordan Eberle would be nice. He's been around for a long time. A good veteran player. He's been a good piece for them as well. Maybe a Vince Dunn. I mean, he's not locked in really long term, but he's arguably the best defenseman on that blue line. You got Jared McCann. He scored 40 goals, and he seems to be a little bit of a firecracker for that team. And what about Brandon Tanev? I mean, that guy, he puts up a fantastic picture every single season. Could that guy make a good captain? I don't know. I think I like the idea of Jordan Eberle. That one would just be really nice. A guy that's been around for a long time, through the ups, through the downs, and he's still here being a very productive player. So I like the idea of Jordan Eberle. We got Anaheim. Oh, this one's tough. Now, they could give it to Cam Fowler if you're going to pick a veteran. I think Cam Fowler would be fantastic. Been there forever. Underratedly, really good defenseman. I think he would fall under that same category like Lindholm. He got traded from the Ducks. He went to the Bruins and he looked fantastic. I think if Cam Fowler went to a more competitive team in a better role, I think you could see a very good Cam Fowler. But I think he's still a really good defenseman. He should probably be the captain. But if they aren't going to pick a veteran and they want to go with one of the new guys, the one that I'm still sold on, and I don't know, maybe I have a little bit of a crush on this guy, but Mason McTavish, man, I don't know. There's just something about this guy that just screams future captain to me. He just seems so mature, maybe a little grumpy, which I really like in a player. If you're a little grumpy and you don't play the norms, man, like I really dig that about McTavish. So that would be the guy. I know a lot of people are like, oh, what about Zegras or even Troy Terry maybe, or the new guy, Leo Carlsson. Well, I think it's a little too early to give it to Leo Carlsson. He hasn't played any games yet. So, but Zegras, it'd be fun. It would be unique for the NHL to have a guy like that be the captain because he's kind of quirky and goofy, and he's definitely very popular with the young kids. So that would be really good. But I really like Mason McTavish, so that's the guy I would pick. But Cam Fowler, if we're being serious, we got Philadelphia. This is a tough one. This is a tough one right here because there's not too many guys, but it's got to be Couturier, man. Couturier, really good news to hear that he was back on the ice playing, preseason hockey at least. That was the first time it said in 20 months that Sean Couturier has not played. So he when I think of Philadelphia, it's him and Claude Giroux, those like curly, redheaded guys with the beards. I mean, he's got that look of Philadelphia, and I think he'd make a great captain. Another guy very similar to Braden Shen, just a really, really good two-way forward, good on offense, really good on defense, and he's been there for a long time. And I would be super into Mr. Sean Couturier becoming the next captain of the Philadelphia Flyers. That would be wicked, or better yet, he gets traded to a competitive team and does something good in the playoffs. That'd be cool too. And then there's Chicago. So you could give it to Connor Bedard. I think it's a little too early to do that. This is the team that I think, honestly, I just wouldn't give a captaincy to unless it's going to be Who the fuck is still there that's been there for a while? I don't even know. So I think it's just give it to Connor Bedard, but maybe after the first season, kind of like a Crosby. I could see Connor Bedard becoming one of the next young captains in the league. There's really not many other guys to pick, and you could give it to Taylor Hall, but I don't know. I don't really see Taylor Hall as that, but maybe now he's kind of shifted in a leadership role for Chicago, so maybe Taylor Hall is the captain for a little while, and then he can pass it off to Connor Bedard. But I think we all know that Connor Bedard should and probably will be the captain of the Chicago Blackhawks really, really soon, so that's really cool. Also, I need to talk about Connor Bedard just a little bit more. So last week, we talked about in preseason him scoring that hat trick, and I didn't even talk about how fucking disgusting that release that kid has. Oh my god. I went back and rewatched those goals. Holy shit, that release is scary. It looks scarier than Matthews, man, and I don't say that lightly. Like, that is... Wow, it was preseason, I know all that, but Jesus, did he ever. He shot that thing so violently and so accurate. So my question is, I might have already asked this, but how many goals is Connor Bedard going to score in his first season? I mean, I feel like it's safe to say he should be in that 35 goal range, but could he push 40 plus? I mean, could he be up there with an Austin Matthews rookie season goal total? I mean, with that release, man, and how much opportunity he's going to get with Chicago, I mean, maybe. I can definitely see a season with Connor Bedard getting like in and around a point a game, and maybe a little bit, but he's going to be like a minus, pretty nasty. It's probably going to be a not great plus minus, but I don't put a whole lot into the plus minus stat unless it's extremely egregious. Like if you're a minus 80 something, like what the fucking fuck are you doing? But regardless, that release on Connor Bedard is terrifying. I cannot wait to see what he does with that in an NHL game, man. It's very Austin Matthews like, where he'll drag it and he uses the opposing defenseman fantastically as a screen. That thing is launched off of his stick like a NASA rocket, and wow, it's going to be very entertaining to see what Connor Bedard can do in this league. I cannot wait. It's going to be a lot of fun. Speaking of a lot of fun, let's go back to the Anaheim Ducks, who still have not signed Trevor Zegras or Jamie Drysdale. So what the heck is going on over there? Is this... like, we're getting deadly close to the beginning of the season. I mean, they literally could sign it tomorrow, and I don't think anybody's going to bat an eyelash. But what if Zegras and or Drysdale do not start with the Ducks at the beginning of the regular season? I mean, it's not like the Ducks are going to be making the playoffs or anything like that. But, you know, is it going to be a bad look for the organization that the young pieces that are going to be building this team in the future are already kind of putting their foot down and making things difficult? I'm not going to say it's I don't know, it definitely reminds me of the Leafs a little bit, with Nylander holding out, Marner being a little baby, and Matthews just asking for a shitload of money and getting it. I mean, I don't know if I know that the league is changing and the younger players are starting to get more money earlier, which is fine with me. That's okay. But, you know, if you're going to have Zegras and Drysdale, like, sit out the beginning month or something, I don't know how good that's going to look for the future of the Anaheim Ducks. So, well, I'm definitely quite curious, not only to see what the contract is going to be, because now that you got that contract that got signed with the Sens over there and Sanderson, is Drysdale looking at that thing being like, oh baby, how about that 8x8 extension? How can I get some of that? Now, I would be fucking scared and shocked if Anaheim gave Drysdale a 8x8. Some people might like that, but not yet. And Zegras, I mean, he could sign an 8x8, and I wouldn't be terribly bad with that one. Now, is he? I don't know, man. He's going to definitely be an offensive dynamo. Is that defensive game going to come around? There's a chance that it might. There's a chance that it doesn't. He's just an offensive dynamo, and you're going to have to stick some sort of defensive man on that line just to, you know, keep things normal. But I don't know. It's definitely going to be. It's an important thing for the Ducks to get right. You don't want to piss off Zegras, but you don't want to have a deal that's going to hamper the future of this team. So they're definitely taking their time with it. But I think time is starting to run out. Training camp's already begun. Preseason's begun. These guys are nowhere to be found just yet. So interesting. And we also have Shane Pinto of the Ottawa Senators. He is not signed yet. And this mostly comes down to salary cap. They don't have the money. I don't know how much they want to give him, but they say that they don't have the money yet, and there may be a trade coming out of Ottawa. A lot of people are circling Joseph as the possible target to get traded out of Ottawa. And yeah, I could see that because when I was looking through the Ottawa lineup for the preseason, they do have they have a really good forward group. So if they are going to sacrifice something on that team, it's probably going to come from the forward group because they're pretty heavy up there. It's a good forward group. Like, it'd be amazing if they could just keep that. But Joseph is making a little bit of money, and I think he's got some term on that deal. So someone's probably going to pick him up that has some salary cap, but that team is also going to realize that they have the Ottawa Senators kind of by the balls, because if they want Shane Pinto like really, really bad, well, how bad do you want him? Is it a first round pick, second round pick, third round pick that ends up, like, I'm not saying that Matthew Joseph is necessarily a bad contract or anything like that, but if there's blood in the water, the GMs are going to smell it, and I think there's a little bit of blood in the water when it comes to the Ottawa Senators lineup and the money and who's going to leave. Like, are they going to have to end up trading Shane Pinto? And I definitely don't think they want to do that. They seem to really like Shane Pinto. He played pretty well for them last season. I think he got to 20 goals. So, yeah, that's the kind of player you don't really want to lose, especially for nothing. I believe he's still a restricted free agent, so I think the risk of losing him for nothing is not going to happen unless something terribly happens, something bad happens. But regardless, those are 3 young players that are currently not signed. Drastically different reasonings. I mean, Anaheim's got all the money in the world to give them, but that doesn't mean just because you have all that money doesn't mean you got to spend it all on those guys. So they want to be smart. I understand, but again, clock's ticking. And then Ottawa, it's just the fact they don't have any money. So a move is going to have to be made out of Ottawa. Who's going to get traded? I mean, if there's smoke, there's fire. It's probably going to be Joseph, but who's going to be picking him up? I think you're going to be picking up a pretty good player. You might be able to get him for a fairly good deal, and you may even get a pick thrown at you too, just to take him. So that is going to be really interesting to see where that one goes. And then just a small little thing here from Montreal. Paul Byron retires, which is kind of sad. I like Paul Byron. He was a good player. But there is good news. He is going to remain with the Habs in a player development role, so that's pretty key. I like when players stick around and, just stay with the team. If you like it there and you're well-liked and everything, I'm good with that. So Paul Byron, wasn't a superstar or anything like that, but regardless, he played in the NHL. That's more than a lot of people can say. So congratulations to him, and good luck with the player development role. There's definitely a lot of fun, young, exciting players over there, so it could be a lot of fun for him. So we'll see how that goes. Probably would have been a lot less fun if he played this season, because I don't think the Habs are going to do very good, so maybe it was a fucking 3D chess style move right there. Good on you, Paul Byron. And I guess speaking of good for you, Michael Andlauer is officially the new owner of the Senators. I mean, people are talking about it like it's news. I feel like we've known that for quite a while now, but it's official, so fantastic. I mean, it's definitely a big pressure situation for Ottawa this season. They haven't come out and blown their load like they did last year, where they're like, oh, we're done with the rebuild and fuck, and all that shit. But, without them saying it, it's basically playoffs or bust. Like, you're probably going to see a lot of changes in management, behind the bench, and all of that stuff if the Ottawa Senators do not make playoffs this season. So we'll see how much people like Andlauer if this season goes badly and he starts firing people. But regardless, it's good to see that that's all done and settled with there. It was a little bit crazy there for a little bit, Snoop Dogg getting in there and fucking Ryan Reynolds almost becoming the owner of the Senators, which I would have loved, by the way. That would have been freaking dope. But it's the NHL, no fun allowed, so you just get some fucking billionaire who gets to be the team. Good for him, so that's nice. So hopefully we get to see the Ottawa Senators move into a better location so that people can actually watch their games live without taking out a loan for bus rides and planes and all that shit to get to the arena because it's so far away. Regardless, that's really cool that is settled. So I think that's it for me, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. You can watch this if you want to. You can go to Gamer GX videos on YouTube. I upload all the full episodes over there. Great place if you want to drop a comment or send in a question for this podcast. You got questions about the upcoming NHL season. You got some questions about some video games. You got some questions about movies, TV shows, and or wrestling. Throw them at me. I love a good comment. If you want to be a superstar, why don't you leave a little review on whatever podcast listening thing that you're listening to this to? Hit that little star button and let me know. It doesn't have to be 5, be honest, be real. That's okay. I'm good with constructive criticism and all that great stuff. But regardless, if you're listening, thank you so much. You guys are awesome. We will be back again with more GX Plus casts. I got a Horizon Forbidden West review on the way. Finally beat that game. Gonna be popping the platinum on that bitch at some point, so review incoming for that. And other than that, we'll be doing our regularly scheduled wrestling content. Gonna have the recap. I believe there's some pay-per-views upcoming this weekend, I do believe, so there'll be some extra wrestling content for y'all. And again, follow along on Twitter. There's a YouTube channel and an email address. All the links are down below if you want to check them out, please and thank you. And as always, we'll be back again with more GX Plus Cast.